Hey guys, we're back. Episode 22. This is our fifth week, right? I think I just.
No, we've passed 7 weeks because
I can't keep
seven
track.
times three would be 21.
Yes. I can't keep track of time. What
It's
year is
okay. Yeah,
it?
it's being in quarantine.
Yes. So tonight's episode, we're getting a little bit more personal. You guys have seen our videos and talk about music and things that we enjoy and everything, but we thought in honor of Sunday was National Coming Out Day for people, and we just wanted to share about a story in our life that's happening right now, and has been for the last few
Yep.
years. Our oldest is 24 and is transgender,
Yep.
and came out to us a couple years ago. And we just thought we'd talk about that and just share what we've learned and things that you can be helpful for somebody as a parent or just as a friend for somebody who shares that news.
Yeah. And I know there's being an old person. I know that not everybody sort of understands or gets it or what have you. And I think our approach is not to be judgmental of people, but also it's really important to affirm the validity of everybody and not to deny people's anybody's identity or their basic humanity. Life is very complicated. Things are not always what they seem.
Right.
The older we get, the more we realize we don't know things, right? There's that Mark Twain quote about how something along the lines of when he was 14 years old, he thought his father was the dumbest person in the world. And by the time he turned 21, he was amazed how much his father had learned in the past 7 years or something along those lines. But, you do learn and grow a lot. And the thing that strikes me about getting older is that there's just so many things that I didn't understand when I was younger, and I appreciate the fact that I don't know everything.
And I think for us, we have the benefit is our now daughter, Emma, was never afraid of our reaction, what our reaction was going to be, which I think is great because you never want to have that nervousness of like thinking there's obviously people out there who get pushed away from their family or they have to deal with it on their own or they never have the courage to say it because they just don't know how their family is going to react. So
Yeah,
that was never an issue. We 1,000% back her a million times
absolutely.
of what she wants to do and how she wants to live her life. One of the things that I want to just mention is since I have a lot of friends on Instagram who are having babies and everything like that, and the big whole gender reveal parties, which is great. I mean, we found out what we were having before. Back then, they didn't have that kind of celebration, that they do now. But one thing is like as a parent, you just don't get hyped up in that gender, kind
Right,
of thing because you just don't know, kind of thing.
right,
And be open minded in case it doesn't, stay that way when your child grows older.
right. I mean, it's that's again, it's just much more complicated than a lot of us, thought growing up, and that's okay. That doesn't make us bad people. It just means that, we gotta let go sometimes of preconceived ideas. And one thing I think, just in general, whether we're talking about the rights of transgender people or just the way society functions in general, I think sometimes we don't appreciate how much harm comes from rigidly adhering to, ideas about gender.
Yeah.
You know, people throughout the course of history have been, brutally mistreated because we had these ideas of what it meant to be a man or to be a woman and what you were supposed to do and
What you can or can't
what you
do.
can and can't do, your defined roles. You know, all of these things I think are interrelated, and to some degree, I think animosity or prejudice against gay people, prejudice against transgender people, and misogyny are all interrelated because I think they're all grounded in this very rigid idea of gender, and that we force on ourselves, and we force on the people around us and on our children.
And you feel like you have to follow that kind of
Right.
role, even though you don't feel that.
Your children ultimately know who they are, and they're going to tell you who they are if you have a good relationship with them. And maybe that's exactly what you think, and maybe it's not. But as a parent, your job is to be a parent, not to be a dictator, and not to insist that they live according to, a sort of a preconceived set of rules. So I just think it's hard, I think, for a lot of people to let go of these sort of ingrained ideas in our heads about male and female, and and roles and things like that. But if you look back over the course of human history and realize how much suffering has come from that, not just to people who happen to be transgender or gay, but to all of us, and to women especially, we need to kind of move past that. That doesn't mean that if you are not transgender, you can be perfectly proud of who you are. No one's saying that you can't be. And if you, have certain interests or want to live a certain life, according to your understanding or your idea about your own gender, cool. No judgment. But what I would just beg people sort of is just don't be so rigid and inflexible about it when you're dealing with other people.
Right. Because it's just going to get harder for that person to live their best life, which is what we hope for our daughter. And obviously, after she told us, it took a while for her to figure out a name that she enjoyed. So, which is fine because that's a big decision and everything. So her name is Emma now, and we were joking when she came home from school one time. We just asked, no pressure, but if you thought about a name, and then she was still thinking about it, and I was like, it's going to be Jennifer, right? It's not.
And that's, we also, I think that's another thing, is people get real hung up on things like names. Especially because sometimes, you might pick a name for your child that's a family name, or somebody that you idolize, or someone who's a hero to you. But I think the important thing to remember too is that, you might pick a name because you want to honor somebody, but the best way to honor that person, if they're, for example, a personal hero, a parent or a grandparent or someone you admired, the best way to honor them is to live according to their values, So the name, as meaningful as it might be to you, is less important than your values and how you treat people. And I think if you really want to honor somebody, then, live the way they would want you to live and be the person that they would want you to be. And if that means letting go of a name,
Let it go.
let it go. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It really isn't,
And we, for anybody who has somebody in their family that goes through that transition, we actually have 2 other family members who are transgender and
Or non-binary.
or non-binary, and forgetting like the pronouns, and in the beginning, that's normal, that's perfectly normal. But there's we're gonna actually post a link of how to be an ally to somebody who's going through that, in the kind of like just being how to be the best supportive person that you can.
You're always going to slip up because our brains, and I think this is true particularly of us older folks, our brains, you have to sort of train your brain to change things that are sort of like assumptions, right? So you're used to using a particular pronoun or using a particular name. You're probably going to make a mistake here and there. Don't beat yourself up over it, but don't continue to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's the thing. The worst thing, I've seen stories on social media where someone is transgender, a transgender woman, let's say, and their parents will give them a birthday card to address to their son, right? Don't be hurtful.
Yeah.
Even if you don't understand it, don't be
That's
hurtful.
wrong.
Life is about learning. Nobody knows everything. Nobody understands everything. But just learn. Let yourself learn. But along the way, be the best you can. Do the best you can. And if you make a mistake, own it, apologize for it, try not to repeat it.
Exactly.
That's
Because
it.
I mean, that's all you can do is just say,
Right.
I know, but I just am used to calling you
Right.
another name, another pronoun. So, but I'm behind you, and I'm going to get better at it, and I'm going to remember. So, that's always
right.
helpful. And then one thing that was helpful is we've always had a Christmas ornament with all of our family's names on it. So last Christmas, I got a new one with her new name on it, and we threw the other one out. So if you can do something like that too, to really honor like their
Also, the
new
Christmas
name.
stockings
Oh, and the Christmas
with their
stockings too.
names. Yeah.
Yeah, because we had handmade Christmas stockings from David's aunt with their names on it, and
Cousin,
so
actually. But that's okay.
that's right. It is cousin. I always think aunt because she's older, but I got new ones for all that matched all three, so that they could all have their new ones. So I think that's also important too, to just acknowledge the change and acknowledge like this is our new daughter and this is her name and this is things that we have to do.
And you work through all of the other things, like, if you have old family photos, you work through all those things. Those things are not going to be the issues in life. Those aren't the problems that your child will face, or your other family member will face. Occasionally there may be an awkward moment where you have a photograph that's that doesn't depict them by their true gender, right? But those aren't the things that ultimately are harmful to people. What's harmful, of course, is intolerance, misunderstandings, animosity. So, don't lose a lot of sleep over those things if you're in that situation.
And we've been lucky. Our extended family on both sides were also the same reaction as us, 1,000% supportive. So that also helps in our situation to have family members and extended family members. They just love her just as they did before. So
Yeah. And, one just sort of, I guess, final thought for me, I don't want to talk
no, go
over,
ahead.
but, when you impose a lot of expectations on people about gender and orientation and identity, you don't necessarily know the harm you might do to that person. You're not intending to harm them. You're thinking this is sort of what your expectations about life are. But this isn't about me, and that's a story for another day. But I can tell you from personal experience that, it's very difficult to sort of live a lie, or to be forced to function in a way that isn't really truly you. And so someday we'll talk about that as well. But whether your child is transgender or not, gay or straight, whatever, let them lead.
Right.
They know who they are.
And don't have, and be open to the expectation of changing. We never had like any like certain expectation for any of our kids to be like, you have to do X, Y, or Z or anything. But if you do have that kind of thing of thought of like, this is how I dream for my child, this is what I want, and if it doesn't turn out, you're going to be disappointed. It's you're going to set yourself up for disaster. So I think just the number one thing is just be always aware or always prepared for any change that might come down the pike.
Yep, it's their life.
Definitely.
And you have to let them be them.
So we have a few websites which we're going to link to that are helpful if you have questions about it, if you know somebody who has come out as trans or any thing like that can help answer questions and, just how to be a great friend to that person or parent or brother or sister or anything like that. So thanks so much for listening to our very personal
Yes.
episode today. But we just thought since that coming out day was just a few days ago, we didn't want that to just slide past without acknowledging that and sharing our family. So we will see you next time for episode 23. But I hope everybody has a great night. Bye.
Bye.